I want to talk to you about today. Good morning to you. Sunday morning, having my coffee. I woke up a little bit late. My wife danced in a cultural dance thing uh, for the Philippines here in San Antonio. They have a big gathering, and they do this thing where it's hard to explain. They have these long stick things that they bounce up and down, and they have to dance between them. And like it could really freaking hurt your foot if you screw it up. It's like it takes a lot of practice. They practice like 6 months. All right. So good morning to you. Hope you're having a good morning. The simple logic of a cell, that's what I want to talk about because at heart, I mean, we generate an audience, we generate leads, and we make sales. The way I describe this is we project, we pull, and we promote. So we project out there on social media, project out there with ads, project our message out there, pull people in, we get them on a list, different kinds of lists, email lists, retargeting, SMS, etc., whatever you want to use, right? And then we promote our offers, right? But the offers have got to sell. The offers have got to convert. And I don't think most people understand the simple logic of a sell, so I just want to briefly describe it. So shout out to you if you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Facebook page, profile group. Good morning to you. Happy Sunday. Hope you have a good Sunday. I'll be watching American football. I know for you in UK and Australia, football is what we call soccer here. But American football, if you live in the US, is a big thing. So the cell consists of this mostly. Number one is creating a gap between where they are and where they want to be. And then you're going to convince them you have a unique mechanism, unique way, unique method to bridge that gap. And so in psychology, there's a thing called cognitive dissonance. And the brain wants closure. The brain wants completion. So open loops take advantage. Thing in neurolinguistic programming called open loops, where it's something that the brain's trying to create closure on. That's really what you're doing when you're selling, because, in my opinion, because if you can't establish a gap, they don't need the thing to close the gap. They don't need your mechanism. They don't need your method to close the gap. So if there is no gap, they don't need closure of the gap, right? Now, ideally, you're tapping into a gap they already feel, they have psychological, emotional pain because of this gap, right? But and so the sales message there is real easy. Have pain, have gap. Here's unique solution. Here's why to buy it now, right? That's like the simple logic of that sell. Good morning to you. But sometimes you have to create the gap, right? Sometimes maybe there's some gap there, but they don't have enough cognitive dissonance. They don't have enough space between feeling really any emotional pain between where they are and where they want to be. So you have to amp up that. You have to build a gap. And then your unique mechanism to close it, right? I mean, because if you just start out with, I have a unique mechanism to close a gap and there is no gap. So the gap, of the creation of the gap, is really what we call the promise, right? That's like you're promising something and elaborating on it that creates this gap or taps into their existing gap. This is really the heart, because if there is no gap, there is no want, desire, or need for that solution. So this is why commercials on TV, infomercials and so forth, spend part of the time talking about the pain of the gap, right? Because they're trying to put like a wedge in there and open up that gap wider, so then people need or want that solution to it. If you don't create, so it's funny because I don't know, I think I think marketing and people are endlessly fascinating, first of all. Like, you study it all your life. I have. You'll never figure it all out. You'll never know everything, right? Um, this whole thing, but what we do is really, it's very simple. Like Dan Kennedy said, it's really just psychology and math. It's psychology to open the gap, and then the math to have the economics to close the gap, right? By the way, we had a really just an incredible group, an incredible time in our 20-minute promotion, and you can get it now. The video of it is already posted. The transcript will be posted, I guess, tomorrow. But you can get it at resellertoolkit.com/20-minute. One of the things I demonstrated that was just amazing is, how to text to your own voice. So you type in text, paste in text, like my newsletter, paste it in, click a button, and it translates it into your own freaking voice. In one click, you can translate it into Spanish, French, Tagalog. I mean, this is some really, really cool stuff, right? All right, I demonstrated all that and told how to do it. The software and so forth, it's the most inexpensive to do it. All right, so this gap. Do you have a gap? Are you creating enough of a gap? Because see, if people are like, okay, well, there's a gap, but there's already a bunch of stuff out there to fill the gap. I already know that. There's a bunch of stuff. It's cheap, right? Just like I'm talking about translating text into your own voice. That creates a gap because a lot of people already know text to voice. See, but they don't know text to your own voice. I'm creating a gap there. Do you understand that? Do you see that? I'm creating a gap. It's like I'm taking a crowbar. I mean, essentially, what we do in marketing is this: we generate a lead of a person that raises their hand and says, yes, I'm interested in hearing about this gap, or I've got this gap, at least some enough to raise my hand for something free. Then you're taking a crowbar, you're shoving it into their brain, and you're widening that gap. Now, that's a really probably awful illustration. All right. I don't really do anything with a crowbar. Psychologically, though, you're widening the gap, right? You're trying to force that to create the biggest gap you can, because otherwise they go, okay, yeah, Marlon, that's good. I know about text to speech. Yeah, Marlon, whatever. I already know. I don't have a gap. See, if they already got something that fills the gap, they ain't got a gap. And so all we do online, it's how people can make this so freaking incredibly complicated and stuff. It's just amazing to me. They're very, very, very creative. Like, the markets are freaking unbelievable because all we do is we create a gap and then we fill the gap. That's all we freaking do. And our advertising consists of have gap, click here if you don't want gap. You can't read this because it's reversed the type, but it's a card. Now, it says free steak dinner. Hello, Marlon. They use my freaking name, which is brilliant. Hello, Marlon. You're invited. Free steak dinner. Door prizes will be given. Please bring this card to the meeting. If you're married, you must bring your spouse. Strictly educational only. Nothing can be purchased at the dinner. That removes the fear. This is an informational meeting to show how you can save on your utility bills while also making your home healthier and comfortable. Technology that will be discussed was developed by NASA, credibility, and is being introduced to the general public. First 20 people to call will receive a free dinner. You, your spouse, and one other couple, right? And then, I mean, this is a great card. The phone number's in yellow. This is probably the best postcard I've received for this kind of a thing. Some kind of thing to lower your utility bills. Now, see, they're trying to create a gap here, but the kind of like the only problem is the people that respond to this are hungry, right? And it says in small little print over here, it's about lowering your utility bills. But see, like, I'm surprised they must have one heck of a pitch. And the reason I say that is because the only thing you really know about the people that respond is they're hungry and they want a free steak, right? They ain't really interested in the utility bills because you got to read the fine print for the thing about the utility bills. It does say here, save money, live healthy, increase comfort. But the only thing that really stands out is that they want a free steak. You follow me? So, and if they're buying free steaks from people at saltgrass isn't cheap. I don't know what they're paying a head, $25 a head, maybe. They got 10 people there, $250. So they got to be selling something that say 1,000 or 2,000. So they 3x or 6x, have the potential to 3x or 6x their money. Let's say they got $250 to get 10 people there and they close one, maybe two. Say they close one. That's plus they had the cost to mail out all the postcards and get the people there, right? So it probably costs $50 to get somebody there. 50 times 10, that's $500. I don't know if that's the math or not. Let's just say it is $500. If it costs $50 to get someone there and then $25 for the meal, that's $75. Let's say that $750. They're selling something for $3,000. They sell one, then they triple their money. So maybe it works. You got to have a really great pitch though to sell 1 out of 10 something for $3,000. I don't know what their price point is. I'm guessing it's 2,000 or 3,000. Otherwise, the math doesn't add up. But see, they're going to create a gap when you get there. The card doesn't create a gap. All the card does is get warm bodies there. Now, it would be interesting to go and hear the pitch because they've got to create one heck of a gap to get. Now, they're going to make an in-home appointment, right? Because says nothing will be sold. So they're going to go there. They're going to create this gigantic gap. And then they're going to be like, if you want to close the gap, fill out this form and we'll make an appointment with you. So it's appointment-based selling. They're creating appointments and they're going to come and they create the gap, tell a little probably bit about their mechanism, I guess. They create the appointment and then they're going to come and they're going to sell their mechanism, resell the gap, and then sell their mechanism to close the gap. But that's all we do in business. This postcard is everything we do in business. It's interesting because they're doing a hand raiser. I'm just a little surprised they don't qualify more to get people raise their hand if they have health problems or if they have this problem or that problem. They need to lower their utility bills, right? Says prepare your home for extreme weather conditions. What are they even selling? I don't even have any idea, honestly, what they're selling. But they're generating a hand raiser. Now they're going to create the gap, and then they're going to sell the mechanism to close the gap. That's all we freaking do. That's our business. That's all we freaking do. You can do it in a sales letter. You can do it in a webinar or video sales letter. And then the people, you say, well, Marlon, how come some people make millions and some people don't? And number one, they have a better hand raiser. They have a system for getting people to raise their hands that gets a lot more people to raise their hands. Like this is the best postcard I've ever gotten for one of these kinds of things where it's a meeting. I get these all the time from financial planners and they're pretty crappy, right? I'd like, this is much better. The only thing, does this have a deadline on it? The only weird thing about this one is the only deadline is the first 20 people to receive a call. Oh, Wednesday, August 10. This was Wednesday, August 10. This is way back. Okay. So there was a deadline on it, right? We get people to raise their hands. We create a gap. We close the gap with our mechanism. If you don't open a gap because they think somebody else's mechanism can fill that gap, you got no sell. You don't have jack. If they don't fill a gap, they're not going to listen longer than like 5 minutes, right? So the question is, number one, how do you create the gap? How do you create a gap? Because if you ain't got a gap, you ain't got jack. Number two, how do you close the gap with your unique mechanism? And if you want to know, like, if you're just starting out and you don't have a way to do that, you can go to producepromote.com. And that's where I teach you how to get started with like your first product to open a gap, sell your mechanism, close gap, get paid. Right. All right. Okay, guys, you have a great Sunday. And like I said, I'll be laying around watching football. I think my wife has a birthday party to go to for a friend. And I'm reading today. I'll be reading some Dan Kennedy stuff. I'm always learning, always reading. I think you always got to be learning. You always got to be reading. Some of my friends don't believe this. They really don't believe in learning. I personally believe they're out of their freaking mind. Yeah, they can be great executors, right? But at some point you have to sharpen the saw, in my opinion. If you aren't sharpening your saw every day, you can sit there and be executing like a beast, but your saw is gonna grow dull, in my opinion. All right. Y'all have a great day. Give me a shout out if you watch this on replay, if you watch it live. If you watched it to the bitter end, give me a shout out. Let me know. If you got a takeaway or an insight from today, let me know. Remember, this is all you do. Now, you're not giving away free steaks, but you're giving away something free probably to generate a lead or something really low cost. You're creating a gap and you're closing the gap with your unique mechanism. All